Hello, everybody. Welcome. As you enter into the webinar space, feel free to type in where you're tuning in from. We like to see where all of the students and alumni are located. And we'll give it a few minutes here just to let people trickle in. Hi, Olivia, Georgia. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm tuning in from Portland, Oregon, where we are in beautiful fall weather right now. So, really enjoying that. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so. As you come into the chat, just go ahead and type where you're tuning in from. Colorado. We were just talking about Colorado and all the beautiful aspen trees there. Catherine, who's joining us today, is also from Colorado.
Yes, it's been so beautiful here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful time of year. All right. Well, I will let people continue to kind of trickle in, but we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here. Welcome to the Resilient Professional Tools for Balance and Well-Being. Um, Just for some housekeeping, you'll notice that your line has been muted, and that's just because we do record this and you will receive an email by the end of the day with the recording. And we try to keep the noise level down in the background. So that's why you're muted. But that being said, this is like one of my favorite conversations. I love talking about resiliency. I love talking about burnout prevention, and I really want this to be conversational. So please keep the conversation flowing in the chat. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your perspective and questions or comments that you might have. I really would like it to be engaging and not me just talking at you the whole time. So we're going to go over some tips and tools today. If we have time at the end, we might even throw in a 5-minute guided meditation just to give you a little space to relax in your day. And we do have a special guest joining us. So we're going to take about 15-ish minutes to let Holly speak, and I will be introducing her in just a moment. But yeah, again, just, keep that chat going, and I'd love to hear from anyone what you're hoping to get out of today's webinar as well. So feel free to pop that in the chat. Okay. I'm Felicia Royce. I am the Director of Alumni and Career Services here with ACHS. I have been with ACHS for off and on for about a decade. I've been in this role the last 3 years or so, and I absolutely love helping students and alumni reach their professional goals. So if I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, I really look forward to working with you in the future, and I'm always here as a resource to you. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to our special guest today, Holly Teal. Holly is a graduate of two of our programs, the Diploma in Herbal Studies and the Bachelor of Science in Integrative Health Sciences programs. I've had the joy of getting to know Holly over the last year, and she's been doing some amazing work around stress management. She's used her time at ACHS to really create a special program. So I want Holly to come on and really just talk with you all about what she's doing and how she kind of got to this space, through her journey through ACHS and also since I think it's very relevant, talking a little bit about stress management and maybe some tips that she has. So without further ado, Holly, feel free to take it away.
Yes, thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's such an honor to be with you guys. So I'm going to give a little bit of my journey and what got me here, and then kind of just flow from there. So, as she mentioned, I'm Holly Teal, and I kind of began my journey at ACHS kind of in a silly, haphazard way. In June of 2020, my husband and I established our holistic wellness business, Hepzibah Health Solutions. But we quickly realized that his traditional medical background in pharmacy and my experience in natural wellness, though somewhat extensive, was not quite enough to support our vision. So after a little while of searching, I completely fell in love with the programs offered here at ACHS. Um, I'm sorry, I'm recovering from a cold, so pardon all of the throat issues here. So I attended from 2020 to 2024. Um, all along the way, graduating from the diploma as well as the bachelor's program, I focused in herbal studies and aromatherapy. I also completed a diploma in holistic health practice and a certificate in wellness consulting along the way. So, following graduation, we restructured and relaunched our business. So, our mission is to inspire hope, foster healing, restore well being, and support transformation throughout our community by partnering with our clients and partnering with them in their wellness journey. We provide clients with personalized wellness consulting that combines holistic methods, lifestyle guidance, and clinical pharmacy support. We also, as she mentioned, we just relaunched a lifestyle education program providing self paced online courses available through our website. So I am so thankful for the guidance and education at ACHS, and it has literally shaped my professional skills, business structure, as well as how I serve my community. So I was going to kind of flow through that a little bit because I feel like that's really important and fun to share, especially for current students wondering how it all fits in. So, my aromatherapy and herbal classes help to refine my clinical skills. It helped me to effectively promote wellness within the body with utilizing those modalities in a safe manner. It also enhanced my ability to make personalized wellness support plans through the case studies. And I know all of the aromatherapy students right now are going, "Yeah, case studies. Those things are amazing." My sessions literally follow to a T the process of the case studies, so it's amazing. So I also took the wellness coaching and communication course taught by the amazing Sean Hallam. And through that course, it really helped to teach me how to communicate with my clients in such a manner that it puts my client in the driver's seat of their wellness journey as they should be. And I am along for the ride as kind of a supportive co pilot, navigating and helping them get to the points where they would like to be. Um, throughout my career at ACHS, it was a resounding theme through multiple classes of learning how lifestyle choices can positively or negatively affect the body's interconnected systems. And that theme has really helped me to connect the dots between where my clients are and where they want to be and how to get there. And it's with that understanding of the lifestyle changes and choices that has been a driving force behind our online lifestyle education program. It was really created to just help others to be able to build a lifestyle of wellness, whether they wanted consulting or they just wanted the lifestyle tips. So, our first course is on stress resiliency. It is actually an expanded version of the final project from the holistic stress management course taught by the fabulous Dr. Jackie McGrath. And so I formulated and expanded it in order to help clients and others to be able to identify their top 5 stressors and then build uh, strategies and effective techniques to be able to build resilience against that stress and the impact of that stress that they experience in their daily routines. So, as a former student and current holistic practitioner, I just kind of wanted to share some tips from the class and from my experience. I am a stay at home mom of 3 children, and all of the stay at home parents can totally relate to this. I experience stress daily. especially when I was in school. And so, two of the things that I really struggled with the most were mindset and time management. So, I kind of wanted to speak on those. The first thing in building stress resiliency, though, is identifying your stress triggers and what your body does in response to them, how you respond physically and mentally. For example, I recognized my own stress triggers through feeling overwhelmed and also the muscle tension physically within my body. Knowing these details can help you to effectively put in place those coping strategies to counteract the impact of stress. So, the mindset shapes your focus, and that flows into your words and actions. When you focus on the negative things, like focusing on a 20-page research paper, oh my gosh, that sounds crazy, right? Um, if you focus on the negative points of that and as a challenge, right, you will be able, or you will, I'm sorry, I'm tripping my words up here. Focusing on challenges, it makes them harder, but seeing tasks like a 20-page research paper as a solvable problem will actually help shift your perspective. Thought reframing is one of those tools that we can use to be able to flip the narrative in our mind. Um, Thought reframing is basically rewriting a negative thought into a positive affirmation or a truth statement. So you can turn, oh my gosh, this 20-page paper is insane. I don't know where to start. You can shift that thought into something like, writing this paper is going to be a challenge, but I have all of the tools that I need necessary in front of me, and I know that I can do this. Reframing my thoughts helped me to shift my mind from overwhelm into a state of motivation to complete the tasks at hand. And that flows into time management because time management was one of the things that just threw me over the edge. So while a student mom, I learned how precious healthy time management can be. We all have the same 24 hours, but how we manage those hours can either make or break the chokehold that stress has on your life. So there's two things here: eliminate time robbers and prioritize accordingly. Time robbers are the distractions that prevent you from finishing important tasks. Studying for your final exam or midterms is going to be a whole lot harder if you're binging Netflix at the same time or scrolling social media, right? So identify your main time robbers and then prioritize accordingly. I think of prioritizing in the analogy of rocks, pebbles, and sand. I know this is a popular analogy, but I'm going to go through it anyway. So if you have a glass jar and your task is to fill that jar with a bunch of big rocks, small pebbles, and a bunch of sand, and you haphazardly stuff it all in there, what's going to happen? You're not going to fit it all in and you're going to wind up getting frustrated, right? So if you intentionally take strategy and put the larger rocks or the bigger tasks first, and then you take the smaller tasks or the pebbles second, and then fill the sand in on top that is flexible and fills up all of the nooks and crannies in between all of the rocks and the pebbles, and it fits perfect. I like to think of prioritizing the same way. When we prioritize our schedules, putting importance on the larger things, and sometimes even breaking up the larger things into smaller tasks to make it fit, we can increase our productivity and decrease stress. Um, so, I would like to close what I am sharing here with a few practical things that have helped me as a student as well as a professional. So listening to lectures in the car, I listened to the recorded lectures in the car while I was washing dishes, folding the laundry, just doing mundane things. And that helped to not only have the repetition of it, but also it made it a less daunting task. I incorporated my kids along with my practical assignments. They loved watching me mix and fix things while I was learning, and I also did a dialogue and explained what I was doing and why. And that not only helped to expand my time with my kids, It gave them something fun to do, and it solidified the key concepts I was supposed to be learning during the projects. Writing down assignments and discussion board prompts before I read. So I had the tangible book and I would write down all of the assignments and discussion board prompts. And so while I was doing my assigned reading, I would take notes on whatever I could use for those assignments, whether it's references or, key concepts, and just make notes. So by the time I was finished with my reading, I was also halfway done with my papers. Lastly, as a practitioner, I still refer back to my Canvas. I know current students may not know that. I did not know that I could do that until after I graduated, but Canvas is still available with all of the courses in it. And so I refer back to Canvas. It helps me a lot with going back through and re-solidifying what I've already learned. I've also learned a lot by going back through some of my instructors, such as Dr. Jackie McGrath, Daryl Gulliford, and Amanda Latin. They all included bonus materials into the online classroom that some of them I looked at, some of them I didn't. But now that I have the available time, I go back and look at it. And that has really helped me to not only help my clients, a lot of that material also went into helping me formulate the lifestyle education courses as well. So now, I guess, Felicia, we are available for questions and answers.
Yeah, thank you so much, Holly. That was so wonderful. I loved
Absolutely.
the co-pilot kind of visual of being a co-pilot and having your clients be in the driver's seat. I just love that visual, and it was really helpful to hear about the reframing and the visual of the rocks and the pebbles in the sand. And just a fantastic reminder that you do have access to your previous coursework even after you graduate. So thank you. That was all just so wonderful and helpful. And I highly recommend looking at Holly's workshop. Um, and correct me if I'm wrong, Holly, but I believe you started this whole workshop in one of your classes and then kind of ran with it, right?
Yes, it was a final project for, I can't remember the exact name of the course, but I think it was HED 303 with Dr.
Yeah,
Jeff.
stress management and emotional health.
Yes, yes, that
Yeah.
was our final project, and I just ran with it, expanded it, and just ran with it. So,
Yeah, it's amazing. Does anyone have any questions for Holly? If so, before Holly logs off here, I'd love any questions or comments that you want to put in the chat. Um, I don't see any coming through here now, but I want to say thank you again, Holly, for sharing your wisdom with us and just sharing your experience. Olivia said, "I love learning what we can access, that we can access the course materials even after graduation." That was a really great reminder that I think can be really helpful. And I just really appreciate you coming on here. And I love the work that you're doing and how you're helping your community with stress management, such an important thing to help everybody with. So thank you so much. And feel free to stay as long as you want or log off. But just big thank you to Holly for being here today.
yes, thank you so much.
Yeah. So moving on here, a topic that I just think is so important to discuss is burnout, right? And sometimes the antidote to burnout can be resiliency or stress management. But burnout is a very interesting word because it can mean different things to different people. And I would love to know before I kind of get into this, what if you have ever felt burnout, what that means for you or how that shows up or what symptoms you may experience. I know for me, I get really tired, I get cranky, I reach capacity a lot easier, a lot faster, where I just can't deal with things. I don't sleep well at night. Like that's how burnout kind of shows up for me. And sometimes I don't realize it's coming until it's here. So the goal here today is to recognize some of these signs and to put some things in place as professionals in your field to limit burnout as much as possible. Sarah said exhaust, lethargy is what Tara said. Absolutely. Decision paralysis, that is such a real one. Exhaust, shutdown, sleeping during the day, awake at night, absolutely. And then we're just like drinking constant coffee. The body shutting down, yes, the body will let you know if burnout's happening, and especially if we continue to keep going and keep, pushing through, eventually we'll get sick or we won't feel well. Yeah, thank you for all of that. So, I think it's important to just recognize that burnout really has to do with capacity in a lot of ways, right? And sometimes when we think about burnout, we think, well, if I just take a vacation or if I just go to the spa for a day, all of those things are great. They're all great self-care practices. But really, burnout is, it's like when our emotions and our capacity for handling stress and all these things start to kind of spill over and it really looks different for every person and for every practitioner. And it's not even about, if I make more money, I'm not going to feel as burnout, right? It's not like you reach this pinnacle where you're not going to have burnout potentially on the table as entrepreneurs or people in the helping field, like most of you might be, right? When we're health coaching or we're consulting or we're holding space for other people, it's easy to get into a practice of being there for others and really neglecting ourselves. But I think doing an inventory of like, what does burnout feel like for you and how does that show up? And what is your capacity? What drains you versus what fills up your cup. Everyone's going to feel different about those things, right? So I just want to make sure I note that this is not kind of like a one size fits all. So some of these things might resonate with you and some of them might not. But Sarah said mental, body, and spiritual shutdown. Absolutely. So, as helping professionals in whatever capacity that looks like for you, we're always holding space for other people, right? We're listening, we're engaging with others. A lot of people will bring, big challenges that they're going through in their life or diseases that they're managing, just hard stuff. And we are always holding space for that. So, that's a wonderful thing, right? We pride ourselves, a lot of us really, and I lump myself in here too, we enjoy that kind of work. But at a certain point, if you are seeing so many clients in a week and you're not taking the time out to really fill up your own cup or charge your own batteries, you start to have compassion fatigue, right? And you start to feel like you can't be as present or can't listen as deeply or can't hold the space, or maybe you're crying on your way home from that client meeting, because you're just at your limit with how much that we're bringing in. And as new practitioners, I feel like, we're always trying to kind of gain more clients and be able to help everyone. And so we may not manage our time well, and we may take on a little bit too much, or clients that maybe aren't the right fit for what we have to offer. So it can be difficult to separate emotions, right? If you're holding space and being there for somebody who's navigating really tough challenges, it's easy to, not have a separation from that. And if you're somebody who's really empathetic, I know I can relate to that. And sometimes it just happens, right? Like, but we don't even know it's happening. All of a sudden, we're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted, and I don't feel like I can really hold space right now. Poor boundaries. The word boundaries is so interesting to me because I think we hear that all the time. I think we might have fatigue over the word boundary. Because what is really a boundary, right? Again, it looks different for other people. I'd love to hear what a boundary is for you. Like, what boundaries do you hold onto? Like, what are your boundaries when it comes to school or when it comes to working with clients? But a lot of people, including myself as an early practitioner, will overextend. And I think that comes from a place of not wanting to say no, not wanting to turn down work. Um, but everything has a compromise, right? If we're taking on a lot and maybe it's for a few bucks, is it really worth our energy and our time? Sometimes as a practitioner who maybe owns your own business, it's easy to take on that client at 5:30 because they really need to talk to you, right? It's really easy to kind of work outside of our scheduled hours. Um, and lacking those limits, not setting yourself up kind of work hours when you're working from home, um, and maybe taking on a little bit too much because you want to help, um, but also you're not really setting your hours so people think they can contact you at all times of the day. So I think we'll get into some of this, but setting up actual office hours, even if you work for yourself, and making that very clear to your clients is really important. Feeling guilty for resting. Yeah, Hillary, I saw your hand raised. Feel free. I can't take you off mute, but you can feel free to type whatever you'd like in the chat. Um, the guilt thing is real, right? I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I can't count the times as an early practitioner when I was like, oh, I'm being so lazy today. I'm just doing nothing, right? And feeling guilty that I'm not like out marketing my business or, I need to take a day off or I need to take a week off and feeling the guilt or feeling like we're always, needing to be ahead of everything. I think guilt is a real feeling that kind of mirrors burnout. Yeah, Sarah, I'm sorry that you also deal with that. Yeah. And Olivia said I'm bad at setting boundaries with family members who think I have all the time on my hands. Yeah, you're not alone. You are not alone. Some additional kind of reasons for burnout or just feeling overextended is just managing too many clients or responsibilities. Um, when in doubt, hire out is something that I always say, right? Like, again, taking an inventory, what drains you, what fills up your cup. If you're spending half of your day doing chart notes and entering that into a system and that drains you and you can't stand that kind of work, it might be worth the $50 that you would pay somebody to do it for you, right? So kind of figuring out like, what are some things that you can give to somebody else, right? I also think that working on your own as a practitioner, if you're not part of a collective, you're not working as a W-2 employee, there's a lot of isolation with that. So you're just feeling like I am one person and I'm doing all of these different responsibilities. Um, and if you really think about it, it's really hard to like not only be the coach or the consultant or the person holding space, but also managing your books, managing your schedule, managing your website, doing your networking. I mean, the list goes on, right? Like me just even saying that feels like a lot. So, leaning on other practitioners, building your network in advance before you're a practitioner so that you have somebody to debrief with can be really important. And then, setting, and I see this one a lot actually, unrealistic expectations for productivity or success. So this kind of goes back to when you set up your initial business plan and really looking at the financial goals that you have, right? And making sure that you can reach those goals. These things take time. I think what happens that goes along with the guilt for some people, like you set out this huge endeavor for yourself, and then because life is always happening and you have all these other things that you're dealing with, you can't get to that goal, right? And then it just feels crummy. Um, if you've worked with me, you've probably heard me say this, and I have to credit one of the students that I worked with in the past. I don't even like the word goal. I heard from this student that there's a book out there called Tiny Experiments, and I resonated with that so much because instead of saying you have all these goals that you have to meet, why not just do a tiny experiment, see if something sticks, see if it's something that um, works well for your clients, or see if that's a business practice that's going to stick. And that just putting it in that way, other than saying goals, I think can be really helpful. We talked about isolation. Um, And then limited collaboration. I here at ACHS have all of these people, including Catherine, who's here on the call today, to bounce things off of, right? And so, again, really setting yourself up for a community, getting to know other practitioners in your area, building a web, and leaning on each other. Um, Being able to collaborate and throw ideas around with another person can be really helpful. And feeling unseen or unappreciated. When you are your own boss, especially as an entrepreneur, it's just you patting yourself on the back whenever you can, right? And maybe your clients too. But sometimes it can just be really draining to be going and going and going and not seeing the impact, right? And so, um, not feeling appreciated, not feeling valued, those things can really kind of lend themselves to burnout and feeling like, kind of losing connection to the why of why you're doing this in the first place. Financial pressure, I think this one's right at the top of the list here. When you start a new business or you're a new employee and you're just kind of getting into the field, it can be inconsistent. You can take on, I know I work with a lot of students and alumni here that this is a complete career change. That can be really stressful. And sometimes when you're new at something, you have to take less money from a salary perspective. Sometimes when you're building your business, it can be really unstable at first. And that can really feel like a lot of weight, especially because a lot of people have families and everyone has bills, right? So feeling like I got to get clients and I got to get clients in. So then you start discounting your services. If I just do 50% off the first thing, that we do together, then that's going to bring in more people. And then you get into this cycle of not being paid what you're worth. And that can also very much lead to burnout. And also, I'll just say it, resentment, right? You don't do that on purpose, but it just happens. And then, also the worry that comes along with, thinking about how is this going to all come to fruition over time? Um, and then, not being able to pivot when needed. So feeling really stuck in an environment that doesn't really match up to your personal values. And that could be maybe taking on a job that maybe you thought was going to be great, but isn't, and feeling kind of stuck in that. And then feeling disconnected from other people and also the joy of helping others too. We talked about this already, but prioritizing clients' wellness over, your own wellness, right? And just always being available to people and being a helper, but not really taking the time needed for yourself. Um, Sarah said, good way to bring you back is to give yourself time. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. That is 100% some of the wonderful things you can do for yourself. Exercise is a big one, of course, as well. Um, but sometimes when we're over our limit, we start skipping meals. We don't sleep well at night. We don't exercise because who has time for that, right? And then we also, as human beings, I think a lot of times we kind of ignore that little alarm that's going off where it's our body's like, ooh, I'm feeling a lot of tension, or I'm getting headaches every day, or I'm tossing and turning all night. And we just say, well, I gotta do what I gotta do, right? And so just kind of overriding that over time um, can be really, really, hard on our psyche and our bodies. So I don't know on the webinar here today who can really relate to this, but it's something I've had to navigate on my own as a professional, and I've definitely helped a lot of people navigate this that are opening businesses and kind of stepping into some uncomfortable like changes, but perfectionism and setting really high self expectations, especially as a new practitioner. If anyone feels comfortable sharing, if you deal with that, it's very common. We don't talk about it a lot, right? That idea of imposter syndrome. But in my role, I hear about it a lot. I hear how it affects people. Again, it goes back to, well, I'll just discount everything and give everyone t my time for free because, you know, I don't, I'm not believing in myself, right? Or I don't know why somebody would pay me for this. I mean, these are thoughts that definitely can happen, especially when you're new. And I think we want to, do really well and we want to be the best that we can be, and it all comes from a really good place. But I think sometimes it can be unrealistic. And I think sometimes it can also be a comparison to other maybe practitioners or even a comparison of what we expect for ourselves. And it may not be really grounded in reality, right? So taking that inventory and kind of figuring out your values and starting with values versus these goals, right? These goals that you set out for yourself, but more like, what do I really want to bring to the world or to my practice? Or, what are my values? I think can be really helpful. Fear of making mistakes, which I hate to be the one to break it to you, but you will make mistakes, and it's just part of life. And it's okay. And we all make mistakes. Practitioners that have been doing this for 20 years make mistakes. You're enough. You're always enough, and I think it's about recognizing your intention. We're all going to do things where we're like, oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? Why did I run my business this way? But it's that resiliency piece that Holly was talking about with reframing and trying to find different ways to talk to ourselves and to be kind and compassionate with ourselves. Um, and then tying our self-worth to client outcomes. I see this a lot with those that want to go into content creation. When we are constantly putting ourselves out there and we are being vulnerable, and our metric is how many likes we get, or how many people are commenting on what we're providing, that can be really exhausting, right? Just constantly like looking at how other people are looking at us, and it's not even real, right? Like it's not even really grounded in reality, but it can make a big impact on us. So we have to find ways to really be true to our self-worth that's outside of what we do for our clients. And really get really clear on, again, what our values are, but also like write down all of the things that you know to be true about your skills, and what kind of metrics you want to put in place that aren't just, grounded in opinion or what we view as opinion. I hope that makes sense. But um, I think people can get kind of caught up in, I need to be doing better. I need to have more people, accessing my website. I need more hits on Google. Sometimes we need to just step away from that. Those are great metrics, but they can be exhausting. Olivia said, for me, I don't feel imposter syndrome, but I feel like I'll never be taken seriously until I get an ND. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Um, that kind of goes into what I was talking about, like, people's opinions and how we take that on. Instead of mistakes, I refer to them as lessons. Yes, Joseph, I love that. Sometimes I even think of it as data. So, like, even taking it from like like taking the word failure, let's say, and just looking at it as data, looking at it as information versus like a failure, right? I love that. Um, Kamani said, did photo shoots for free because I didn't believe I was a good photographer. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate everyone sharing. I know this can feel vulnerable, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think we can all relate. So we've talked about burnout, but I want to hear, what brings you joy? What are some things that you do as a student or in your practice, or even something that you want to be infused in your profession that's going to bring you joy? What are some self-care practices that you do currently right now to address and to prevent burnout or to manage your stress? I'd love to hear in the chat like what you're already doing. Some of these things are going to feel like, well, yeah, I've heard this before, right? Like some of this isn't going to be aha, but I think they're good reminders to prioritize time for ourselves. Obviously, getting proper sleep, nutrition, hydration, movement. It's so interesting. Aside from what I do here at ACHS, I'm also a licensed massage therapist. And I, it's so interesting talking to other massage therapists. A lot of massage therapists who see 20 plus clients a week haven't had a massage in years, right? And you, students and alumni here that are maybe going out to do nutrition consulting or health coaching or herbal, remedies with your clients might be so involved in your businesses that you forget to take your own medicine too and to actually prepare your meals so that you have nutritious foods, you're not skipping meals. Like it sounds so easy, but it's so normal when we're in our practices to forget to take care of ourselves, to drink enough water. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it sometimes is not that simple. So again, like really kind of finding ways to remind yourself to do these things, right? Whether it's you're somebody who likes to write this down or create kind of a time in your schedule, right? Like my schedule currently, I have a lunch break that I put in my schedule every single day. And sometimes I take a walk and I have a lunch but I make sure that that time is built in. And it's easy to just have a full schedule and to forget about caring for yourself. I'm going to read some of these things. So, alone time in art and crafts. I love that. Alone time is so important if you're somebody who enjoys that. Arts and crafts are fun too because you're using that kind of artistic part of the brain. Trying one day to let go, no work, no school, absolutely. So like having an off day, or as we like to call in the hiking world, a 0 day. Journal, meditation, staying in nature, absolutely. Tawana says, yes, I have scheduled a 90-minute massage for Monday. Yes, Tawana. I'm so glad to hear that. Putting phone on do not disturb. Tara said, don't answer text or calls during a chunk of time. Absolutely. I can imagine some of you, I know myself included, I'll be answering an email and a text at the same time. That's not great, right? Like I'm multitasking all of the different ways to communicating all at once. That can be a lot. Making sure I do my skincare. This may be basic for some, but as an adult, I've stopped doing this because I didn't feel like I had the time. Making myself do this in the morning, it boosts my confidence. Also find joy when I take my tinctures, when I'm able to cook meals from my garden and meat harvests and reading the Bible to make sure I didn't let this fall by the wayside. Thank you for sharing all of that, Olivia. Making sure that you're doing things at the very beginning of the day that put you in a space of self-care going into your day, I think that's very valuable to share. Thank you so much. Um, I think disconnecting is really important, right? Like being able to disconnect to read or to do things that bring you joy, but truly like not having an electronic device near you, right? Like putting it in the other room. Um, and then, I'm somebody who I love the thought of meditating, but like the minute I'm meditating by myself in a quiet room, my mind is just like doesn't want to do that. So I actually find that guided meditations are going to a class, like a yoga class, like Yoga Nidra, or maybe a class where I'm put into a really deep state of relaxation can be really, really helpful. So don't feel like you have to find this time if you're not somebody who enjoys meditating. But I think time without any other distractions is really, really important. Um, Breath work, literally just breathing and breathing below your neck, right? So when we're stressed, when we have a lot going on, it's like we just neck breathe. But getting that breath all the way down into your diaphragm, all the way down into your belly, and really just taking some time before you answer that phone just to even take a nice deep breath. It doesn't have to be like you take 20 minutes of breath work. It can just be remembering to breathe throughout the day. Somebody had alluded to the nature connection in the chat, and I just find that it's so important to forest bathe or get out, even on your front porch, listen to the birds. Try to find at least a chunk of space in the day to walk outside or run or, do yoga or just breathe in the fresh air. It's really important. We're not meant to be inside all day looking at our computers, right? Joseph said, doing the things that you have to do to survive a lot of times distracts you from doing the things you need to do, especially when it comes to self-care. Absolutely, being in that survival mindset, right? Of I've got to pay my bills, so I've got to keep going all day and work until 8 and not take any time to eat or go on a walk or, it's that survival brain. It kicks in and it is there, it helps us survive, but then are we really thriving? So, again, we're back to the boundaries, but I think it's just really important to define session times. If you're in a 60-minute coaching session with a client and they're really like kind of working through something, or 60 minutes goes by fast, but it's really important, really, really important that you say 5 minutes before that 60 minutes, I just want to remind you that our session's going to end in 5 minutes. And we will definitely meet next week at the planned time. And I'll make sure I make a note to pick up exactly where we left off. The amount of practitioners that I see not staying true to like their service, right? And bending those boundaries, again, that leads to things like burnout and resentment. So being very clear with your clients what your scope of practice is and how you're going to be communicating and sticking to that as much as possible. Um, how many of you like the word no? I don't. But this last year I've been trying to say it more. No can sound very negative, but it, in my mind, can also open up a lot more for yes. Um, so being able to say, actually that project isn't going to work for me. I'm at capacity right now. Actually, I don't think I could take on another client right now. I really appreciate you thinking of me and not saying sorry. Yes, Kamani, not feeling guilty. Yes, guilt is such a thing. Um, yeah, it's reframing the way that you say it instead of saying, I'm so sorry, I can't do that for you. It's, I really appreciate you thinking of me. I really hope that next time you reach out, I'll have more time. But right now I'm really at capacity. Thank you so much. Here's a referral to, you know, my colleague. Or, thank you for that invite to go out to that party on Saturday. I'm actually really prioritizing my self-care right now. I've had a really busy week. Thank you for thinking of me and inviting me. Next time, I'd love to join. So also changing that guilt speech, right? Of like, I'm so sorry I let you down, and just saying thank you instead. People understand. Um, I'm not at capacity to take this on. Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Apologizing, I feel like is so many people do it. I actually have a radar for it, and I'm not perfect. I say sorry sometimes too. And sometimes you do need to say sorry. Sometimes it's appropriate. But 99% of the time, we apologize for things we don't need to be apologizing for. And so when somebody's talking to me and like, I'm so sorry, I'm like, I'm gonna just gently nudge you to reframe the way you said that, because there's nothing for you to be sorry about, right? So, balancing the giving and receiving. So, Twana just mentioned the 90-minute massage. I think it's really important that you get care, right? So, if you're a student here, we have timely care. You can tap into free health coaching. You could start to do trades with some of your colleagues. So, um, setting up time, whether it's just a debriefing time or actual wellness care. Um, I'm not somebody who thinks that self-care is just getting a massage or a mani-pedi or, I think that is a form of self-care, but I think having wellness services built in for yourself not only helps you take time to relax and have space, it's also really interesting how you can take from that and maybe even learn some things that you want to incorporate in your own practice. So it's really a win-win. But really balancing if you're giving, 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 and many of you have families and people that you take care of and aging parents. And so we're just like giving and we're giving. And at the end of the day, we're just like, oh my gosh, I can't, I don't even know what I need, right? So if you build those wellness sessions in, I think having that on the calendar, having something to look forward to can be really powerful. Kamani said, I tell myself not to say sorry because I'm not a sorry person. I say I apologize instead. Yeah, and if that feels right to you, absolutely. But even apologizing sometimes isn't warranted, right? Like sometimes we do need to apologize. Sometimes we make mistakes. I've had to apologize. I've had to apologize to lots of people. Um, Sometimes I forget that I had an appointment. Oh my gosh, I apologize, or I'm so sorry that I didn't honor our time together. That's appropriate. Saying no to something and saying like I don't have capacity for that. Yeah, I don't think that it warrants an apology, right? Like it just is what it is, and we need to, just like we do for other people, we understand that other people have their boundaries. We need to be really grounded in ours too. So thank you for saying that. Okay, let's keep going. So I think it's also important to keep it fresh, right? Like we also can get burnout because we're just stuck in our same cycle. We've just been doing what we do and nothing new has kind of come in. So joining a new network, learning a new skill, taking a new class, joining a peer support group. There's all sorts of groups if you go to your local, why am I blanking on the name? Chamber of Commerce. A lot of times they have like networking and professionals meetings, just getting to know new people, kind of breaking out of your like regular routine when you can be really, really helpful. Um, and then building those partnerships, sharing the workload, hiring out, bringing on experts. You do not have to be an expert on everything in your business or your profession. We all have our strengths and we all have things that we don't want to spend our time on. And it's okay to say, that's not my strong suit and either hire out or refer out. Sometimes it's worth the money to have somebody build you a website. Sometimes it's worth it, unless you enjoy doing that, right? And then I know this came up a few times, but journaling can be really powerful because you can start to see kind of patterns. You can also really write down your gratitude and lean on that, what is really going well for you. Um, but journaling can be really powerful. Just writing down your thoughts and in a quiet space with your cup of tea can be really, really helpful. Um, Staying curious, asking questions, embracing lifelong learning. I think that's really important. You'll never ever be 100% an expert. I shouldn't say that. You're an expert at what you do. You'll never know everything. I guess that's the way to say it. We can always be learning, we can always be growing and expanding, and we can always let things go. We can always shed. If something is not working, it's okay to say goodbye. Partnerships dissolve. Sometimes we have to have hard conversations with the clients. It's not a good fit, right? And that just comes with practice and understanding your values and boundaries. And then I can't stress this enough, but self-compassion. I am like a self-compassion advocate. It is the most important to be able to love ourselves, have compassion for ourselves, not take ourselves too seriously. It's easy to get stuck in that, like, wanting to be perfect, wanting everything to be perfect for our clients, but it starts with the relationship that we have with ourselves. And I think that shines through in everything that we do. So just remembering to be kind to yourself and to say nice things to yourself and catch yourself when you're being really hard on yourself. Because yeah, beating ourselves up doesn't help with anything. It definitely doesn't help us grow or help us with burnout. Celebrate those small wins too. Sometimes just, hey, I answered 10 emails today. Go me. I'm gonna celebrate that. Um, and if anyone has anything to add around mindset or growth, I'd love to hear it. Like what works for you. So, a couple of things as we wrap up here. Time management tools, Trello, Asana, and even just good old Google Calendar. Those can be amazing apps to use to really keep yourself busy. I use sticky notes. I'm super old school. So, sticky notes and just little notes that I keep for myself so I stay on track can be really helpful. Has anyone heard of Pomodoro? I'm curious if any of you have played around with that concept. Yeah, Tara said, yeah, I love the Pomodoro technique. It's scheduling yourself with a timer. So basically, you're giving yourself blocks out of the day for certain activities or tasks, and then setting a timer. And then when that timer goes off, you move on to the next thing in your schedule. So you're giving yourself boundaries and you're scheduling specific time for specific things. And if you Google it, you can find all sorts of helpful tools. I think there's like apps, free apps too. But time blocking, if I don't have time blocked out on my calendar, I will literally be booked solid all day. I will not have a single moment to myself. So just make sure that you're blocking out that time. If you know that you're a morning person and you have the most energy in the morning, take most of your appointments in the morning and give yourself the afternoon, right? Or vice versa. There's some great automations out there. So doing your research on Acuity, Acuity can actually be a free program. Jane App, I think, does have a cost involved, but a lot of these programs just do all of the work for you, which is great. And then really the financial wellness piece. If you are a current student, we do have financial wellness through Timely Care. You can find free financial wellness apps, really making sure that you are looking at the financial piece and setting proper kind of metrics for yourself, so that you're not stressed constantly about money or that you do know where you're at with everything and have a plan. Um, and again, going back to, looking at the services you provide and doing market research and making sure you're asking for an appropriate um, amount of money for your services, right? That you're not discounting a lot of your services. Um, and Insight Timer can be really, really helpful. Headspace is another really great, I'm sure most of you have heard of that. It's a great app for meditations. Practice Better is a wonderful software program that can do a lot of that automation for you. And Forest is another app that can be helpful with finding balance. I love these books. The Burnout Epidemic, Jennifer Moss, Radical Acceptance, which I try to live in that space as much as possible. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I can only get half of my stuff done today. I'm going to radically accept that. Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff is such a good book. Kristen Neff, if you also have like Spotify, you can Google her. She does a lot of podcasts. And so if you're more of a Audible person, that would be a great way to hear from her. And then The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. What is normal, really, right? Um, and then We're All Here for You here. So, we have a whole uh, like a list, I guess you could say, of webinars on topics like building your own business and master classes, micro credentials, things to help you in your own practice, different ideas and perspectives. Mindfulness-based stress reduction, you can find that in books, you can find that through therapy, you can find that meditations, but really finding ways to reduce your stress. Timely care mentorship programs. We do offer a mentorship program here, so talk to me if you are interested in receiving a peer mentor. We talked about coaching groups. It's another great way to really expand your circle. Um, and I don't think we have time for the meditation because we're right at noon, but I would just encourage you to use Google. It's that simple. Just find meditations that really work for you and give yourself that 5, 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be a whole day, it can just be moments in time. Um, this is my contact information, link to my online calendar. So feel free to schedule if you want to do a one-on-one. I do a lot of work around stress reduction, confidence building, things around imposter syndrome, also logistical things like planning your business, your resume, job search support, things of that nature. So if we haven't talked and you need some one-on-one support, go ahead and schedule with me. Um, since we have about 30 seconds left, does anyone have any questions or comments before I let you all go? All right, I don't see anything rolling in. So thank you all so much for being here today and for taking the time to, this is self-care, right? So taking the time for yourself. And I hope this is helpful and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Happy fall.